Good morning, everyone. I'm Kat, and I'm the Outreach and Communications Coordinator with Ontario Streams, and we are here today with our Fish Friday finale. So we've had 8 wonderful and exciting and informative Fish Fridays leading up to this point, or this is our 8th, and we have shared the progress of our Atlantic salmon that we have been raising as part of the Lake Ontario Atlantic Salmon Restoration Program. And as we've reiterated many times through this series, this Lake Ontario Atlantic Salmon Restoration Program is here to try and bring back the Atlantic salmon here to Lake Ontario. They've been considered locally extinct for over 100 years due to the creation of dams, industrialization, and overfishing. And we work with many partners, including the Ontario Federation of Anglers and Hunters, the Toronto Zoo, and different levels of government to try and bring back these salmon. And we do that through 2 main ways. One, through restocking, trying to add more Atlantic salmon eggs, fry, and yearlings into the tributaries, the rivers of Lake Ontario. As well as on the other side, we work to try and improve the habitat, so the fish that we are releasing, as well as all other animals and wildlife in the ecosystems, have a healthier habitat to live in. So we are coming to an end of this series, but we are hopeful that we will continue to do more virtual and, of course, in-person outreach programming in the future. So right now we'll just finish up with these little guys, and then hopefully you'll follow us on our different social media pages to keep an eye on what's to come. So as we said, this is our last one, and the focus, of course, is on actually releasing the Atlantic salmon into Lake Ontario tributaries. So over the past 2 weeks, we've been releasing the Atlantic salmon that we've helped raise either through the in-stream incubation tubes, so you can go back and watch our hatcheries video to learn more about that one, as well as our little hatchery with the Islington Sportsman's Club, as well as our little small-scale hatchery that Ontario Streams has been running. So all 3 of those different ways that we are supporting this project, these salmon have now been released, and we have released over 7,000 Atlantic salmon fry into the upper Humber River. So that's a really big chunk of salmon. We're so happy with that number. They are going to have that better head start, better chance of survival, since in the wild, often something like 10% of Atlantic salmon are surviving that first 6 months. So we've had much higher survival rates, of course, through this program, closer to in the 30 to 40% range. And then these salmon, they've already gotten through that first 6 months, the most vulnerable time for them. So they are likely going to have even higher success rates from now on. But of course, let's bring out the salmon, the moment we've all been waiting for. So here we can see them being released into the river. So there's lots of them in there, probably about 100, and they're swimming off into their new home. So what we do is we take them out of the tubes or take them from the hatchery, put them into some buckets, get them in the river water, getting accustomed to that temperature, and then we bring those buckets and we release the salmon into the safest part of the stream. So we look for spots that aren't going to have as many predators. Things like brown trout would love snacking on these little salmon. So we make sure that we are evaluating the safest and best spot in the river, the stretch of river that we're at, to release these little guys. And, that was a pretty quick video, but here we see it in slow motion. So we've got our salmon, again, coming out of a bucket after being counted and prepared and sitting in that river water for a little bit, and then off into the river. So it is very hard to see them, though, of course, and that is because they have really great camouflage at this stage of their life to be in this part of a habitat. So let's see another closer up video, see if we can actually spot any of the released salmon in here. And I promise they are in there. But salmon, when they are fry, their camouflage is developed to best suit the river environment. That's where they're going to spend the first couple years or so of their lives, in these rivers. And so they really need to make sure that, again, they are able to camouflage in this particular habitat. So yes, very hard to see them. They've got a lot of that sandy color to them to match the sand and the gravel that's along the bottoms of these rivers. From there, though, they will continue to grow. They are going to eat a lot of the things that we find in the river would be a lot of small aquatic insects to start, and then they will keep feeding on that. And once they are bigger and a couple years go by, they are going to be ready to head off to the next ecosystem, which in our case of these landlocked Atlantic salmon in Lake Ontario, they are not going out to the ocean. They are just going to Lake Ontario. That's their little ocean for now. So they'll head out all the way down the Humber River to Lake Ontario, and they will then be called smolt, and they will go through a process called smoltification, which is when they actually change their coloring to better match and better camouflage in that lake ecosystem. So that's the next step, and we did go through a lot of their life cycle in our last video. So if you're wondering what comes after smolt and then they become those adults and then return, definitely more info to go back and watch number 7 video with the Toronto Zoo. Lots of great information shared there. But let's also take a look at another size fish that we've released, because those ones we know are pretty small, still around 1 inch, but these guys here, these ones here we released, they're a little bit on the bigger side, so we've had different times of fertilization for the different fish that we've been raising. So these guys are going to be quite a bit easier to see here in the river once it's out of the net. But there we go. There's another one there. And again, perfect camouflage in this habitat. So now that we've learned so much about Atlantic salmon, maybe we've developed a little bit of a soft spot for them. Maybe we have a little passion to protect these Atlantic salmon here in the environment, and moving forward, protecting the rest of the environment as well. So let's cover a few things that we can do as individuals to try and have a better, more positive impact on the world around us. I'm sure we know about those 3 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle. We've got 2 new layers now on top here. We have rethink, which is about taking the time to reflect and think about the different activities we do every day, the different products we use every day, and really think about whether those are good for the environment or not. If they're not, maybe we can think of some better alternatives to do and include in our lifestyle. Next up, we have refuse, which is about saying no to those things that are not good for the environment. Maybe the next time you go out for takeout, they offer you a plastic straw, plastic cutlery. You just say no thank you, and you wait till you get home and use your cutlery that you already have. Reduce, still very important. We want to try and make as little waste as possible to begin with, without even thinking about reusing and recycling. But we want to think about taking a litterless lunch. Whether you're a student or an adult, that really does make a big difference, trying to make as less garbage as possible when you're eating lunch or any meal every day. Reuse, we want to keep reusing things, extend the life of the things that we already have before we buy more new, right? I'm sure we have lots of clothes in our closet that we can keep re-wearing. We don't always have to buy new, and just keep extending the life of those things we already have. And then lastly, at the bottom, we have recycle. And of course, recycling, it's important, but unfortunately, there's a lot of research that says only about 10% of the things that we put in our blue bin are actually getting recycled. So about 90% of the things in our blue bin are actually being routed to landfill instead of being recycled. And that's often because these products are not clean, and it leads to contamination of other things in our blue bin. So when we have things like peanut butter containers, yogurt containers, they need to be empty and clean before we put them into the recycling. So I know it's a little bit more work for us, but in the long run, these are really important steps for us to take to really reduce our environmental footprint. And beyond our 5 R's, we know that we should be saving water and not wasting water. About The average Canadian uses about 330 liters of water every single day. That is a lot of water to be using, and about a third of that alone is just through bathing and showering. So a really quick thing we all can try is to take a shorter shower, right? Trying to keep our shower less than 7 minutes, that's a really good way to reduce the amount of water we're using and really be more mindful of how much water we do use every single day. Of course, we've got our toilet, laundry, dishwasher, or cleaning. So if we do have when we do laundry, we can make sure that we have a full load before we turn on the washer, and the same thing goes for dishes too. Try and make sure that if we have a dishwasher, we're loading it full before we turn it on, and really making the most and being most efficient when we turn on these machines to get a reduced amount of water. On that note, we also want to be cautious of what we put down the drain, whether that's in our homes, our sinks, our bathtubs, our showers, or even along our community and in our neighborhoods with our storm drains. These can connect directly to our waterways, right? Our storm drains, they don't usually get cleaned before that water enters our rivers. So we really want to be thinking about whether we're using chemicals, whether we're using road salts, anything that might wash into our storm drains can enter into our natural systems where it can cause problems. So we want to make sure that down the drain, it's just for rain and keeping that as clean as possible. And then lastly, something you can do, everyone can do, is to volunteer or support our local conservation organizations. So at Ontario Streams, we lead a lot of habitat restoration work that often includes a lot of tree planting or litter cleanups, and we host many volunteer events to help with all of this habitat restoration. So you can reach out to us on our website if you'd like more information about how to get involved and help support all of this very important work. You can also stay educated too and keep learning more about our local environment and our local species at risk, our local endangered animals. And you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn, all at Ontario Streams, to keep in touch with us and learn more about our projects and any more of our future educational programming. So thank you so much for tuning in on our Fish Friday series, and we hope to see you online and in person pretty soon in the future. So thanks everyone, and have a great day.